Okay folks, can you see the steam coming up from my cup of tea? Is that spooky or just weird? I don't know. I'm starting this vlog because I've been meaning to start it for ages, and I always think, oh, I need to do that first or this first, and then it just never happens. So I'm taking a couple of minutes right now to sit down and to start this vlog. This vlog, which I hope will be a super cozy autumnal reading vlog. I'm manifesting. That is what I would like it to be. I'm certainly feeling very autumnal today. Got my cup of tea, too hot to drink, but it can warm my hands in the meantime because it is quite cold and I haven't put the heating on yet, but I might have to put the heating on in a minute. Okay, so I wanted to sit down and film this because it is Wednesday, the 13th of October. I've read one book and it's a picture book this month. And I didn't read anything at the very end of September either. By not read anything, I do have to use air quotes because for work I am reading this file of poetry here. It is very, very full. I'm judging a poetry competition and I've been doing some editorial work reading people's books, but reading for pleasure I haven't done, and it's making me feel weird. I don't like not having a book on the go, and I think, or at least for me, I know when I get out of the habit of picking something up in the evening, then it takes a while for me to get back into it, and it's ridiculous because it's something that I would like to be doing, but I've just been falling asleep as soon as I've got into bed in the evening, and that is when I tend to do a lot of my reading, that and very early morning. But it's just been a bit intense these last few weeks, and that's okay. So I've been catching up with myself today. I took this morning to sort out the flat because it needed it, and I made some stock and some soup and some homemade bread. Look at me being ever so wholesome. So that has made me feel good. It's been book release time, so that's been busy because it's been all from the flat, and I've been recording videos for booksellers to use and some resources for schools, been writing articles, and before that, before the book came out, was something that I hadn't anticipated or planned for, but the new James Bond film came out and there was a bit of an explosion like with The Witches last year with the discussion over disfigurement and villainy, which meant that I was writing quite a few articles and was on radio shows, and I had to slot that into work that I already had planned. So that just meant that basically it felt like my brain was going to explode for a while, and it was a bit exhausting. And I do think it's important to talk about these things, but it is emotionally exhausting too, to continually try and explain why the villainy disfigurement trope is harmful when it's something that's already been proved time and time again. It's not even a discussion that we're having anymore from the point of view of whether or not it's directly impacting people's lives. So it's exhausting to have to reiterate the fact that that's not the argument. The argument is whether the industry is going to listen and change. But anyway, I will link a couple of articles that I wrote in the description box down below, and the radio interview I did if you would like to go and listen to that. Okay, so because of those things, because my new book has come out too, and because I've been doing this judging stuff, I haven't been reading for pleasure. That was the point I was making. So I picked up a picture book last night. That sounds like pick up a penguin. Who remembers that advert? Okay, I picked up a picture book by someone who has done a picture book about a penguin, but this one is not about a penguin. I read Oliver Jeffers' new book last night and I just thought it was lovely. So it's called There's a Ghost in This House, and if you would like a sweet Halloween book, I'd recommend this, along with Rebecca Green's book, How to Make Friends with a Ghost. This uses tracing paper. It's very big, so it's going to be hard to show you, to show and hide ghosts. So welcome. I haven't had visitors for quite a while, but then you turn the tracing paper page and you see that there's a ghost at the top. So on each page you have to find the ghosts hiding in different bits. This one is one of my favorite, where she's looking up on the chandelier, but actually the ghosts are hiding under the table and they're saying shh. So that was lovely, and I loved reading that. And now I have picked up The Second Woman by Louise May. This is translated from French by Louise somebody. Louise Rogers Lalaurie, and I just lost my place. French flaps are really good for bookmarks. Do you use them for that? I do. So I've only read the first 30 pages or so. It's got a lot of body image related things in here. So the main character is always berating herself and other people for their weight, which is clearly something that's been drummed into her from a young age, but it's really quite difficult to read. So I would say if you are going through a rough time with food, or you have experience of eating disorders, then this may not be the one for you, but I will report back on how much that progresses as I progress through the book. So that's what I'm currently reading right now. This morning I cleaned the flat because that was going to clean my brain and make me feel better about things. And consequently, I've done 9,910 steps already. That's how much walking around and hoovering and doing laundry and hanging stuff up has been done. And if you're wondering how big this flat is, if I walk around in a circle, which I did a lot when I wasn't going outside for walks, walking around is, I think, was it 45 steps? So I've walked around this flat considerably today, and I'm feeling better. I'm feeling on it with work, and I'm hoping this is going to transpose into reading habits as well. So what I want to do in this vlog is talk to you about the books that I'm going to be reading over the next few days. I'm going to crack on with work now, and then I'm going to come back to you later. I think I want to make a pineapple upside down cake today, so maybe I'll do that. Then we'll talk about books over the next few days. I'll take you on an autumnal walk. I want to start a new audiobook, so we can look through the audiobook library and see which one I would like to start reading. Some of you have been asking me about, very niche group, about the vine that grows up by the side of the flat, because I shared it last year. I kept giving updates because it goes this beautiful colour in the autumn, but it hasn't changed colour yet. It's only just starting. I was looking at my post from last year and realised this time last year it was all bright red and beautiful, but it's still quite green. But I will update you later in case that changes. And that's kind of all I got to say for now. But yeah, there will be baking, there will be walking, there will be reading. That is a note to myself. There will be reading. So I will check in with you in a little bit. Welcome to the vlog. Good morning, a very early morning update from me. You may be able to hear the kettle in the background, and the tea is that I was gonna say I'm not really in a place to read this, but actually I don't think I would ever be. This is a very intense book, as I mentioned yesterday. Okay, the premise is that a woman is with a man. Great work, Jen. A woman is with a man whose wife went missing a year ago, and then the wife comes back, and lots of people, I think, thought that maybe he had killed her. There was just lots of suspicion around it, and as I mentioned yesterday, she's very critical about the way that she looks, about her own weight and other people's weight and other people's appearances, and that's because people have not been very nice to her. And then at home, her husband or at least her partner, is extremely horrible to her. Her mother was not very nice to her either when she was younger. Her father objectified her. She's been sexually assaulted a lot. It's just bam, 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 all of these not very nice things. And I don't really want to read it. I don't think that it's badly written at all. And I think that if you enjoy reading about stuff like that, enjoy in inverted commas, then perhaps pick this one up. But this is not the direction I thought it was going to be. And I thought it was going to be more, I think, subtle on the manipulation and violence front than it is. Like, it's very in your face. So this one is not for me. That is a shame. Okay, putting that one down. So I've thought about what I'm going to pick up next, and I do have to read Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, because I have to review it for work next week. But I've still got time to read that, and future self is probably going to be cross with me for not choosing to read that right this second. But the two that I've pulled off my shelf right now, we've got The Fell by Sarah Moss, which is her latest book. It's coming out in November, and I've been saving it for closer to release date, and I think the time is now. So I'm going to read this. This is about a woman who is quarantining herself after being away, or maybe she's come into contact with someone who tested positive. It's set in the present day. So she's not allowed to go anywhere, but she feels very claustrophobic. So she decides to go on a walk in the middle of nowhere, assuming no one will see her. And she's justified it to herself in her head that is fine. But then she falls over and she's stuck. So that sounds really interesting. Love Sarah Moss's writing. And the other one I've picked off my shelf is this one here, which was a gift from Mercedes. And I thought maybe she had already read it and that was why she had gifted it to me, but she hasn't, because I've seen that it's on her autumn TBR this year round. So this is October by Katya, Balen, and it just seems like the most autumnal book. And this is a middle grade. And even if it's dark, I think it's going to be cozy. So I think these two together will boost my reading. This is my plan. Okay, I'm gonna get ready for the day and crack on with work, and I'll come back to you when I have reading news to report. This is quite possibly the most unflattering lighting ever, but this is going to be a really quick clip, so let's ignore that. It's very early morning on Saturday. Good morning, obligatory cup of tea. It's cold. I am about a third of the way through The Fell by Sarah Moss, and you know, the more I read her books. No, I've read nearly all of her books. I haven't read Cold Earth, and I have picked up Science for Lost Children and not finished it, but that's not because I wasn't enjoying it. It's just because I don't like not having a new book by her on my shelf. Anyway, I've pretty much read all of Sarah's writing. What I mean is the more recent books of hers that I've read have started to remind me more and more of Ali Smith, which is only a good thing. I love both Sarah's writing and Ali's writing, and I feel like it's a little bit more stream of conscious. And I think because it's going between two different characters, maybe I feel like it's more thematically like Ali Smith, because like the seasonal quartet, it's very much set in the now. So perhaps that's it. Anyway, I'm enjoying it, though I am finding it difficult to read because Kate is someone who has been told to quarantine because she came into contact with somebody at work who tested positive, but she is feeling quite anxious. This feeling I really identify with when you're stuck inside, so you want to, I'm sure many of us identify, it's really overwhelming her, so she decides that she's going to sneak out and go for a walk, and she keeps on justifying doing this in her head, and I'm finding it quite difficult to read because, you know, it's just, I've heard a lot of people justifying not that this is terrible behaviour, which is how she's justifying it to herself, but just that, yes, but what about my mental health? But then forgetting about everybody else's mental health too, including people shielding, and she has someone next door who shields. And but it's good that I'm finding it difficult to read because it means that she's a very believable character. I have underlined one bit, but I don't know if it's necessarily quotable out of context. Let's see. Oh yeah, she's talking about the box of things that she's packaged up to take to the charity shop, and she says she just wants them out of her sight. The black dress she used to wear for choir concerts, some other things. It was always silly, really. Full-length velvet for community centres and village churches, freezing her tits off in winter and sweaty in summer, and half the time more people in the choir than the audience. She heard on the radio once about women cutting up their velvet evening gowns to make blackout curtains at the beginning of the war, and she can imagine it now. Party dresses brought down, spread out on the floors for sacrificial butchery in the yellow light of 1940s light bulbs. I loved that bit. Okay. As much as it's making me uncomfortable, I am enjoying reading it, and it isn't very long at all. I think it's about 180 pages, but I will check in with you later. I'm going to go get dressed because I'm going to go get my 3rd COVID vaccine, because I know how to party on a Saturday. Grateful for this vaccine, grateful for science, slightly nervous about going, not because of the vaccine, but because last time I went, I encountered such ableism with people in the vaccine queue thinking that I had leprosy, saying I must be contagious. And then when I was asked to remove my hat because they needed to take my temperature, I needed to take all of my hat off because they couldn't get a temperature read. I wasn't wearing a wig, and then people behind me who previously thought I had leprosy suddenly decided I had cancer. And I was like, I would tell you I don't have cancer either, but I just don't have the energy today. So yeah, I'm gonna have this tea, quickly hop in a bath and go get my booster vaccine. Exciting times. Hi, it's Sunday. I'm feeling fine apart from a sore arm, so I feel like I've cheated the system slightly this time. That's good. But non-bookish content. I don't have a book update for you right this second, just about to go for a walk. But my mother-in-law was having a clear out of her wardrobe. Oh, this is not focused, is it? There we go. Stop it jumping all over the place. She was having a clear out of her wardrobe, and she dropped off this coat that she doesn't wear anymore. And I love it. Let me show you. Look at this. It looks like a Barber, but it's not. It's an old coat from Marks and Spencer's. It's great. And now it's going to be my walking coat, I think. Thrilled. Lovely. Okay, right. Let's go for a walk. I would like to start a petition to try and work out where time goes. That's what I would enjoy. And if you would like to speculate as to where time disappears to, you could leave your wrong answers only in a comment down below, and I would love to read those, because it is a whole week later and I don't know how that happened. I often say that you can tell what my state of mind is like by how chipped my nail varnish is, and it's quite chipped right now, and what my reading is like and how erratic that is. So let me illustrate my state of mind to you via those things. So I finished reading The Fell by Sarah Moss, and I enjoyed this book. I don't think it is my favourite of hers, but that is more to do with the subject matter than the writing of it. I think the writing is great. I think it's a very good book, but just enjoyment factor, because of the subject matter, it was slightly less for me, that's all. I don't have a huge amount to say about it because when I last checked in with you, I was already a good chunk of the way through, and it is quite a short book. But to recap, it's about a woman called Kate who goes out for a walk because she's fed up of quarantining, and then she has an accident. She falls and she's like, oh my goodness, everyone's going to know that I'm not at home. What am I going to do? I don't think this is intended to be a moral tale. You know, don't go out and break the rules, because then this bad thing will happen to you and then everyone else will be impacted. But it definitely does explore that. It does show how one woman who is sick of being isolated becomes very much not isolated, and how emergency services, which are already overwhelmed, have to come to her rescue. It explores lots of moral conundrums surrounding that. The person who comes to rescue her very much understands why people like Kate want to go and do the things that they are doing, because they're feeling trapped. So it's not a novel that condemns people or anything like that. It's a novel that in each character's instance explores, I guess, the grey areas and this new territory that we're all going through. And I really enjoyed that. There is one point where Kate has fallen over and she's feeling a bit delirious, and a raven starts talking to her. And I don't think this was a deliberate reference to Crow by Ted Hughes, and then, if we're going to go parallel to that, Grief is a Thing with Feathers by Max Porter. But I couldn't help but link those things because Max used to be Sarah's editor and he wrote Grief is a Thing with Feathers, and I know that they're friends. And that just tickled me a little bit. I quite liked that. I quite enjoyed that. So yeah, I did really like this book. I think my favourite of hers, I think maybe still The Tidal Zone, but I don't know if that's because it's the first one that I read, but I absolutely adored Summer Water, and I think about Ghost Wall all the time. I think her books are brilliant. So I finished reading Sarah's book, and then I decided I would pick up an audiobook, and I started listening to The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell, and I couldn't get into it. It wasn't for me, so I've put that one to one side for now. And then I decided I would listen to the audiobook of Ghost in the Throat by Ghríofa. So that is what I'm listening to at the moment, and here is a physical copy that I can hold up for you, and it is narrated by Siobhan. I've forgotten her surname, but she's in Derry Girls and she presents the Great Pottery Throwdown, and I love her, and I think that she's an amazing narrator. This is giving me vibes of things like Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder, because it is about motherhood and exhaustion. Also reminds me of Night Waking by Sarah Moss, and she's thinking about a poem that she read when she was a teenager, which she had interpreted in a very specific way, but then when she looks back on it now, she sees that there is nothing in the text to back up the way that she used to read it, and she finds that really interesting. She's like, okay, so we read books and we see what we want to see some of the times. We will fill in those gaps depending on our personal situations. So I like kind of all of that meta intertextual, that's not a word, intertextual stuff that is going on in this book so far. I know that you will all be thrilled to know that the vine outside the window that I mentioned at the very beginning of this video has now turned red. So let me insert some footage here so that you can see how beautiful it looks. It only stays like that for about a week, but it just makes my heart so very happy when it does that. Last week was a bit overwhelming just for a lot of different reasons, and on Friday I decided that I would take myself on a walk before it got dark to kind of clear my head, and I did film that. So before I come back and talk to you about what I'm reading right now, I'm going to insert a clip of a walk that I did on Friday when I walked to Hampstead Pergola, which is this beautiful stone walkway which kind of looks like something out of Beauty and the Beast. And if you go during the week, I find that it is completely empty. At the weekends, it can get a bit busy, but during the autumn months, even at the weekends, it's quite quiet. It's mostly got lots of people there during the summer because all of the trellises are full of roses, and that is very beautiful, but I actually prefer it in the autumn when everything is dying, okay? I just prefer it. So I went for a walk there. I'll insert that footage and then come back to me and I'll talk to you a bit more. Oh, hey, welcome back. I thought I would show you a book that arrived this morning. It came unsolicited, and I normally don't accept unsolicited books, but had I been emailed about it, I would have said yes to receiving a review copy because it's definitely up my street. And it's this one here called Parallel Hells by Leon Craig. It's not coming out until February, and it does feel like it's kind of perfect for this time of year, but you know, horror and ghostly creepiness are not just for Halloween, they are for all year round, and I fully support that message. It says horror is not dissimilar to love in that all time gets folded in to meet it. It also says it's for fans of Daisy Johnson, Carmen Maria Machado and Kirsty Logan. Hello, a queer gothic short story collection for winter nights from an emerging voice in British literary fiction. So this sounds fantastic. 13 gothic, eerie and unforgettable stories. We meet a golem made of clay, learning that its powers far exceed its creator's expectations, a ruined mansion which grants the secret wishes of a group of revelers, and a notorious murderer who discovers her Viking husband is not what he seems. Sign me up. This sounds great. Cool. So this one is going on the trolley over here. I also brought this through from the kitchen because it made me giggle. Look at this is ridiculous. So I want to make an apple pie, and I'm not going to do that in this vlog because I want to get this vlog up later today. So I may start a new reading vlog and include apple pie making in that, but I thought this was going to be a lot of hitting myself with it, great, a lot or a few really big cooking apples, but actually they're really quite tiny and they're going to be so fiddly to, I just dropped one on the floor, they're going to be so fiddly to, I was going to say skin, that sounds really horrible, peel, that's the word, skin sounds like, well, very Halloween-y, perhaps apt. A nice thing last week is that I won first runner-up in Poetry London's competition, their yearly competition, their 2021 competition. There was an award ceremony at the Royal Festival Hall, which I obviously couldn't go to because, but that will be online, I think, at some point. And if you would like to read my poem and other people's poems in Poetry London's 100th issue, I will link that in the description down below. It's quite nice actually because Poetry London was the first place that ever published me as an adult, which was in, I want to say 2009. So this feels just very nice, very appreciative of that. So that was a nice bookish thing that happened last week. Things are ticking over with The Sister Who Ate Her Brothers, which, as I've mentioned a lot in videos recently, is my new book and came out a couple of weeks ago, one that I made earlier. So this is going well, doing podcasts, online readings. So that is what has been taking up my time. We do have an ebook release now for The Sister Who Ate Her Brothers. It's coming out on the 23rd of November, which is also when the book is published in North America. So I'm very happy about that. I knew that there was going to be an ebook sometime this autumn, but I didn't have a definite date, and now I do. So I am sharing that with you. I don't know if that's available for pre-order yet, but it will be available very soon to pre-order. As for reading, I am now reading Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, and it's just making me think of loads of different things. It is such a hard book to talk about and categorize because it is so weird and wonderful. It is narrated by Piranesi, who's kind of stock taking, cataloguing this huge house, which is representative of the universe, because it's forever expanding or seemingly expanding, and weather occurs inside of the building itself. It's so beautiful, and it is the kind of thing that I like. I love this motif of rooms representing people or places, like Lauren Eggert Crow's The Exhibit, which is imagining yourself walking through a museum of your life, and in The House Upon the Dirt, Between the Lake and the Woods by Matt Bell, that has a woman who manifests underground rooms that represent different parts of her brain. I love that. It also makes me think of Lyra and how she interprets the alethiometer, in how he interprets movement in these halls as he's walking through them. It is definitely not, at least so far in my reading, plot driven. It is more just ethereal and beautiful and kind of calming. It's like meditating. Like, I'm reading this and feeling like it's like the car map, hearing about all these tides that are going through all of the different rooms of this house that represents the universe. It's really beautiful. So that's what I'm reading at the moment, and I will finish that and we'll be reviewing that for Toast very soon. But I thought that I would wrap up this reading vlog here. I hope that it was cozy, and I'm going to start a new one very soon, making this apple pie. But for now, I need to crack on with other things. So I'm going to love you and leave you. And I hope that you're having a lovely autumn. And I will speak to you all very soon. Sending love. Bye.